Hi everyone, I'm Sunshine Jackson, and thank you so much for joining me for the Sunshine Sessions on YouTube. Well, I am here to report that it is being reported by several outlets that Dan Rivera, who was the lead tour organizer for the Annabelle Cross Country Tour, formerly entitled Devils on the Run, the Devils on the Run Tour, Mr. Rivera has mysteriously died. Annabelle, the doll, which some of you may be familiar with, has been touted as being the most haunted object in America. Famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren had Annabelle locked in a case, stored in a room which, my understanding, was turned into a small museum, amongst other demonically possessed objects that they would have blessed regularly, regularly, by a priest. It was my understanding that Mr. and Mrs. Warren stated that under no circumstances should Annabelle be removed from her case. I am not quite sure how Mr. Rivera obtained Annabelle, but for those of you who are not familiar with Annabelle, let me give you just a little bit of history. Mr. and Mrs. Warren obtained Annabelle from one of the paranormal cases that they worked. Now, her origins go back to 1968. And for those of you who are familiar with the Conjuring universe, that group of movies, you will be familiar with Annabelle. But for those of you who are not, you can start with The Conjuring, where we were introduced to Annabelle, who later got her own spin-off. So her first appearance was in the movie The Conjuring in 2013. She then got a spin-off franchise, first 2014 in Annabelle, then in 2017 Annabelle Creation, then finally in 2019 in Annabelle Comes Home. And for those of you who again are not familiar with Annabelle, you can start there. Now, in the movie, she was given the appearance of a Victorian era porcelain doll, but in real life, she's actually a Raggedy Ann doll. Now, I am originally from Louisiana, and I recall that when Annabelle was in Louisiana, she was in New Orleans, actually, and there was a big to do about her being there because people were like, what the actual hell? Why is she here? Lightheartedly, people were saying, does she have an album coming out? Why is she on tour? Right? And those of us from Louisiana know that it's never a good idea to mess around with anything that has to do with demonic possession. So we just felt like it was a bad idea. Strange events started happening. The famed plantation burned down, and you can Google that. And there was also an incident where a bunch of prisoners escaped at the same time. And many people were saying that this was related to Annabelle's presence. Well, there was also a priestess of sorts who uh, performed a ritual when Annabelle arrived, and a ritual, I should say, also for her to leave or when she left, telling her that we really didn't want her here. And again, none of us felt like it was a good idea for the guys to even take her on tour. Again, I'm not sure how Mr. Rivera obtained Annabelle. The Warrens are no longer with us. They have transitioned on. They passed away. Again, I would have to research, but I just wanted to come on and tell you all that it is being reported that Mr. Rivera, who is the lead tour organizer for the Annabelle Cross Country Tour, which is formally named Devils on the Run Tour. Okay, so you can Google that and you can look that up. And again, it is being reported that he has passed away from mysterious circumstances. And at the time of the report, the actual cause of death had not been released. But the New England Society for Psychic Research, which was founded by Mr. Ed and Mrs. Lorraine Warren, um, has not immediately responded to um, requests for comments from different outlets, but um, it is just stating that, just to give you all a little bit of background on Mr. Rivera, he was 54 years old, and which some would consider relatively young for a seemingly healthy man to pass away. Again, we don't know his medical history or anything like that, and at the moment, I won't speculate on the cause of death because I don't know what the formal cause of death was. But he was also, it's my understanding, he consulted as a producer on a Netflix show called 28 Days Haunted, which was also featured if you go to the social media accounts for the New England Society for Paranormal Research. You will see that um, uh, 28 Days Haunted was frequently featured on, again, those social media accounts. And what they do in those features, they would advertise different events and giving people who followed them, their followers and their fans, a look at various haunted objects. So you guys can check that out. But I just wanted to come on and talk briefly about it because, as I stated, when the tour was taking place and it came to my home state, I recall people really, really being vocal about it. So I'm going to just let you all know, again, being from New Orleans, we know that it's real. You know, those types of things are real. And none of us feel like it's a good idea to intentionally go after that type of thing. So, again, when we got word that Annabelle was on tour, we just really did not think it was a good idea. Again, I don't know the reason. I do understand that there's a big following for the paranormal, excuse me, and for that type of investigative work. And it's just interesting, that taking her from state to state around the country, different things happened when she would be in different states. And it has been reported that Mr. Rivera passed away in Gettysburg. Okay, he passed away in Gettysburg, and that's what we know at the moment. So, hey, I I would love to hear what you guys think about this. If you think that it's weird, if you think that it's somehow related to handling Annabelle, or if you all think the handling of her was disrespectful or a bad idea, if it was against what the Warrens advised people not to do. Because again, I know that they stated that Annabelle should not, under any circumstances, be removed from her case. And again, for those of you who are not familiar, you can read up on Annabelle, or you can start with The Conjuring and see how it all relates. And you can also research Ed and Lorraine Warren, because they're very famed paranormal investigators. But I would really love to know what you all think, so let me know in the comments. Again, I'm Sunshine Jackson. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.